Now, Democrats are up in arms decrying the arrest and indictment of a Wisconsin judge accused of hiding an undocumented immigrant from ICE agents.
And now the suspended judge, Hannah Dugan, is looking to have her federal charges tossed, believing prosecutors have no legal basis for their case. Attorneys for Dugan argue that the suspended judge has legal immunity for official acts she performed as a judge. Writing in a motion filed Wednesday, her lawyers argue that the government's prosecution of Judge Dugan is virtually unprecedented and entirely unconstitutional.
Now, Dugan's arrest set off a firestorm of criticism from Democrats who have condemned the decision to arrest the judge. Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers, a Democrat, posted a statement on X shortly after the judge's arrest, taking aim at the Trump administration's, quote, dangerous rhetoric to attack and attempt to undermine our judiciary at every level. Meanwhile, FBI Director Kash Patel made the administration's message very clear after the arrest, posting a picture of Dugan in handcuffs with the short message, "No one is above the law."
Now, the suspended judge is facing charges of obstructing a proceeding and concealing an individual to prevent arrest. She could get up to 6 years in prison if she's convicted on both counts. Dugan is expected to enter a not guilty plea at her arraignment later today.
Yeah, so the news here is the indictment, the response by the judge. We have discussed this before. I do think it is interesting to me how hard Democrats are going to defend her because, you know, it's a somewhat serious thing she was accused of. And you said when we discussed this previously that you don't quite see it the way some of these Democrats are seeing it. Now, of course, she deserves her day in court, and she can argue that she didn't do any of this. It sounds like that's not her argument. Right. Tell me if I'm missing something. It sounds like she's arguing, it's my court, I have broad immunity to do what I want in my court, not, no, I didn't help some illegal immigrant escape. What are you talking about?
Right, she is arguing that, and this is one of the issues where I separate from the Democratic or liberal consensus. Because this has been cast, and Tony Evers, I think, was doing part of this in the tweet we raised, being cast as a sort of Trump attempt to intimidate the judiciary. Now, I think there are lots of areas of American life that Trump has sought to intimidate, and I've said that here. But I just don't see this in that way. The accusation here is that there was an illegal immigrant in her court on a domestic violence charge, and she spirited him and his lawyer out the jury door to evade ICE agents. That seems, if true, to be pretty obviously in contravention of the law, and I don't see how she can be placed above the law. Now, in this filing that she talks about, or her lawyers talk about the thing being unconstitutional, they contend that one of the reasons for that is that judges are entitled to maintain order in their courtroom. Yes, in the abstract, but it seems a very gymnastic stretch to say that that's what's going on here. And also, just briefly, Robby, in making that argument, the judges' lawyers don't seem to put any limits on that argument. So, I mean, for the sake of demonstrating the hypothetical, if someone is causing uproar in your courtroom and a judge shot them, the judge couldn't turn around and say, well, I was maintaining order, so I'm immune from prosecution.
Right, it's not a private fiefdom or kingdom, exactly, which the judge has total authority. There is some case precedent that I read last time we discussed this about local or state or local officials don't have to be forced to serve as basically law enforcement officers for federal purposes. So, like, if the ICE agents ordered the judge to, like, hold him down while we get out our handcuffs, the judge doesn't have to do that, nor does anyone else.
No, but they can't move the person away.
This is quite different from that. I don't know why Democrats wouldn't just say, the thing they should be saying is what we're saying is, well, she's entitled to her day in court. She has the presumption of innocence. We'll see what comes of this, but we don't believe that illegal immigrants who are facing also charges of, this was a domestic violence issue. It was not just, so it wasn't like, one of the grandmas who's been here forever, not bothering anybody, getting, dragged out of their home. Now, and this person deserves due process too, but it is legitimate for ICE agents. We want ICE agents, if they're going to apprehend illegal immigrants, actually to do so at courts because it's safer for everyone involved. They know, because to get into a courtroom, you got to go through a metal detector. They know the suspects do not have weapons, and so they can detain a suspect in a way that is safer for them, for the suspect, for bystanders, for everyone. There's so much less room for somebody getting shot or something than when they're going into your home or going into the wrong door, apartment complex or something. This is where we want it to happen.
Or in this guy's case, he ended up being detained on the street outside, which the argument is that causes greater public risk. Just very briefly, Robby, on the point about the fact that this guy was facing charges, to me that also undercuts one of the arguments that you hear generally from some liberal people about judges and courtrooms and ICE agents, which is if you have illegal immigrants being detained on unrelated cases, could that, for example, discourage someone who's in the country illegally from coming to testify about another crime? That is an argument that I think in general terms maybe has some weight, but in this case where the guy was actually the accused in the domestic violence charge, it's harder to make that argument in my mind.
Very much so. Next up, Marjorie Taylor Greene calling for a pardon for Derek Chauvin. Niall's got a lot to say about that. You'll hear from him. Stay tuned.